What's up, Rob? Welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you having me, man.
Glad you can make it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
those watching, Rob is one of our students at Preservation Yoga. This is not this interview, this my podcast. I call it the twofold way. So it's based on having practices that help you balance mind and body. And for me, it's like yoga and jujitsu, but
uh,
also storytelling, um, as well as healthy practices, right? Like things like that. So, um, yeah, to kick it off, what's your main practice of staying healthy? What keeps you healthy these days?
well, I used to be a runner. Used to run a lot, and I got that from the military. But I had a back injury. And in 2007, I had back surgery. I had a lumbar laminectomy, uh, which is the disc in the L4, L5 regions.
Mm,
And that didn't go too good because I had some fragments of the disc that gotten down in my spine, in
mm,
the spinal canal, and
mm-hmm,
it's caused a little nerve damage, and I've suffered the nerve damage, so that inhibited me from the ability to run. So noticed that I'd been gaining weight and just really couldn't do much. And so over the years, I kind of struggled a little bit. And then I got into yoga many years later, which up to 2017, and that has become my new best friend, because it's helped me to regain some of my mobility, a lot of my mobility. And even though I think the nerve damage is sort of mitigating now because of the heat that goes into my body, I think it's waking up some of the cells.
mm-hmm.
So I think I'm on the way back to recovery now, man. But it's kind of late, and I wouldn't say late, but I'm older now, and this is about the safest thing for me. So, and it's the best thing. I'm 60 years old now,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel great, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Did you try any other types of yoga before you did Bikram?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it was sort of like the boutique yoga, pretty studio. It smells like lilac and it's flowery and nice smell, but it was just, the room was dark, the ambience was beautiful, but it was just more or less cosmetic. You did a few little stretches. And
Mm,
I told my daughter, I said, hey, my wife and I, we're doing yoga. And she was in LA at the time. So she was, doing yoga in LA. And she said, well, if you really want to do yoga, you should try Bikram yoga. And I said, well, I never heard of that, And she said, well, I'm going to try to find you a studio in Baton Rouge. We live in Prairieville. That was the closest one. And she found us Preservation. And that was like 2017. And that was great. We came there, and Stefan was our teacher at the time, Stefan and his wife Mercy,
mm-hmm.
and they nurtured us, man, for many years, and was very patient with us. And even when during COVID, the studio was kind of on lockdown. People had the fear of being around each other. And we did a few private lessons and stuff like that, and it was so therapeutic for us that we even invited our staff from New Orleans. We drove them up to do a little bonding exercise, and Stefan did a couple of private lessons for us. It was like about 5 or 6 of us, and it was great. So I've been hooked ever since, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been really helpful to me and my health and my sanity, really. So I really enjoy it, and I look forward to doing it, the rest of my life, man.
All right.
You know.
That's such good feedback. What do you think's the difference between what you did before and the classic 26 and 2 or Bikram?
Well, you could never be certain that you were actually working out your whole body, your entire body. It was sort of hit and miss,
Mhm,
and depend on, how you felt or how you feel. You may, even if you go into the gym every day, it's never going to be as consistent
mhm,
as the yoga and the things that we do. the
The set sequence.
exactly the sequence. And you know, when I first went to yoga, and Stephen would say, "Well, you know, we're gonna do this every day. We're gonna do." I mean, it's to always be the same. You know, yeah, it's the same, but your body's reacting different to the same thing. You know, so
Mhm,
it's making adjustments, you know. And what I've learned, like after the first maybe 2 years, it's like, you know, you try to wing it to get through it and say, okay, well, I'm gonna do this pose just like the instructor as close to it as possible. But your body may not be in a position to conform that
mhm,
way, so for you, you know, it's like this pose may be, even if you're at it 35% and it looks horrible, that's just where you are. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And so I learned, okay, you know what? This practice has to be for me. It can't be, I want this person to think that I can do this or do that. When your
mhm,
body can't contort or conform to a certain pose yet because there's damage there. So you have to go into it with that mindset to say, hey, look, okay, if we're doing half moon pose, I can only go 10%. That's all you have, you know.
mhm,
But if you're consistent and you want to do it right and you do every single thing that the instructor is telling you and as he's doing this dialogue, you
mhm,
do that and you will definitely see the changes, you know,
mhm,
because the consistency is there. And to me, that's the difference, you know, by doing, you know, yoga opposed to doing any other thing. Even with running, sometimes, like I said, I ran a marathon in Hawaii, you know, but leading up to the training for that, you know, I developed plantar fascia. And so I had to take, you know, some time off to let that heal and to go back at it. Now you're worried about if you're going to feel the pain in your feet. So you're kind of running, you know, with a little bit less pressure. So it's now you're threatening your knees because you're running a different way to favor, avoid the pain. So, you know, with yoga, this Bikram is always the same, you know, it's
mhm.
consistent. So you get to access various levels, you know, of your body that need the work, you know. And
Totally.
that's it takes years to really understand this.
Mhm,
So, you know, if you've been coming a year, you might, but you might not. But it
mhm.
teaches you to learn to be in tune, you know, with yourself, your body and everything, man, you know. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it took me a good year to really
Mhm.
experience how good it is, and
Mhm.
I think a big part of it is, I tell people I had a girl literally last night say, kinda shying away from something that's hard, and it's almost like the harder it is, the more benefit
Yeah,
you get, and
absolutely.
it's almost like that's just a nature that's one of the core things that I mean, that's the kinda thing that I had a problem with when I was younger, right?
Mhm.
And you don't understand that it's almost like that's the way the world's set up, it's like
Mhm.
those who are willing to face more suffering get more benefit,
That's right.
you know? And, the same thing with, like, doing a cold plunge, um, all that stuff, right?
I
And
have
that's it.
yet to do that, you know, and that's been on my mind. I saw one of the students it was Wednesday. It was yesterday. She got in
Mhm,
and I looked at it, I said, oh, you know, I kind of envy that because she's doing something that I'm still a little trepidatious about doing.
mhm,
That's been weighing on my mind because I know once I get past that threshold of doing that,
mhm,
that's something I conquer. I have conquered. You know, it's like running a marathon. You know, people say, "Oh man, it's hard." It is hard, but the feeling of having accomplished it, you know, even if you don't have to do it in 2 hours. You know, I did my first marathon. I think I finished in like almost 4.5 hours, almost five. At first, I was embarrassed because they had guys coming in at, you know, 2 hours and 5 minutes. I'm like, man, they then had a meal and I'm still still running, But I could say not a whole bunch of people do that. And the only reason they don't do it is because they don't want to fail or they don't want to face the the threat of failure. But there's no
Mhm.
failing once you're trying something. There's no failure.
Mhm.
So, like you said, the cold plunge is my Achilles heel right now because I have yet to do that, and I've been making it say, "Okay, time. I got to get to work." So that's been carrying me, But and then I said, "Well, no, maybe someone else wants to do it, and I don't want to hog big space if they just, determined about it and hear me playing around. I may be a little edgy, a little fishy about getting in it, trepid about doing it.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I have a little fear about it, so I
Oh,
got to
yeah.
get over that.
I get it. I hate it too, you know?
Yeah,
I said the same
yeah.
thing about yoga. I had a guy I ran into not long ago, and he was like he goes, "I hate Bikram yoga," because I told him, and, uh and it turned out he had been to the studio a few times,
Mhm.
and I was like, "That's the point." I was
Yeah,
like, "It's kinda the point, right? To face
yeah.
that suffering and power through it, and after that, nothing else in your day is gonna be
I know.
as hard."
That's right. And that's what I look forward to sometimes, and I'd rather go early in the morning because,
Mhm.
man, I don't know what I'm gonna face,
Yeah.
driving down to the city. I don't know what kind of situation we're gonna deal with, what kind of patient, in the business that we in, I don't know what we're gonna deal with, but
Yeah,
once I get
I wanna hear more about that in a second, but,
okay.
I just wanna point out one thing that I love. The reason I bought the studio is because I wanted a place where we can do hot yoga with a cold plunge, right? So it's kinda like the yin and the yang. It's also,
Yeah.
movement in the heat and then stillness in the cold,
Mhm.
in the water,
Mhm.
and so if you think about it, one of the reasons it's so healthy for you is one of the more popular things these days has been, um, contrast therapy, right? Where you
Mhm.
just go in a hot tub or a sauna and then a cold
Mhm.
plunge, and you kinda go back and forth, and what that does is basically, if you can imagine when you're hot, your nervous system kinda opens up and is kinda dumping, right, and trying to keep
Mhm.
you cool, so all your
Mhm.
blood, is going more outward, and then the opposite happens, right? So
Mhm.
all your blood drains from your skin and keeps your organs cold, so you're strengthening that nervous system, which is also improving your immune system, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So um, so what kind of, you wanna tell us a little bit about all the things you do? You're a pretty busy man.
Yeah, well, my wife and I, we run a hospice agency. Uh, a lot of people uh, don't understand what that is, hospice. They think, uh, what is that? Well, we take care of people that have a terminal diagnosis. There's no known cure for their illnesses. And so they have uh, a limited lifespan. They're
Mhm,
facing a life limiting illness. It's not curable. It's not uh, reversible, and so they're in an end of life situation. So when there's no cure, they're usually in a lot of pain, and they need a lot of support uh, spiritually, uh, economically, emotionally, and medically, because their bodies are breaking down, and although there's no cure, they still need palliation. So they need to be comforted. And so that's the business that we're in. We provide medications to keep them comfortable, but it's not just like we just, you know, numbing them. We still want them to have a quality of life so they can appreciate those around them and express their final wishes. And what's so interesting about that is we've been doing this now 18 years, my wife and I. And to get a terminal prognosis, it means medically you have about 6 months to live. And man, we have patients that have been on census for 2 years. And we've noticed is that it doesn't matter how ill or how sick your body is, if you get care and people caring for you and being supportive, the will to live overrides sickness in some cases,
mhm.
and people just live longer. And I've had family members that may have come down and say, well, I'm going to come down for 6 months because I expect my loved one to expire. And have called us and say, this is kind of weird, but should my loved one have passed on by now? Like, we don't control that. We just doing what we need to do to give them a quality of life that they deserve, considering what their diagnosis and prognosis is.
I gotta say
And
that sounds like you probably have a such a deeper appreciation for life and
I
health
do,
yourself, right?
I do, I do. Health is wealth. And so if you're not willing to invest in your health while you still can manage it, this I can't classify that kind of person because they don't really know that like I know it. Like I said, health is wealth. What are you willing to spend? But you can't wait until you at that point where your health is in jeopardy. Let's preserve it. You know what I'm saying? Let's preserve it. Let's do things now, like what we're talking about, and give yourself a longer lifespan with a better quality instead of looking and saying, man, I wish I would have did this or that.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm 60 years old, man, but I don't feel like it. You know, I just still things I still want to do. We just came from South Africa a couple of months ago. I went on a safari. You know, in November we were in Egypt. I'm just looking for places in the world that I want to see and enjoy. Take in as much life as I can. And look, when I went to Egypt, I mean, every day we probably walked, 7, 10 miles just touring. And I was like, man, a lot of people couldn't handle it, but it wasn't a problem for my wife and I because we had been investing in our health for all these years, just doing yoga. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that kind of is where I am with that.
Yeah, I lived in New York for a while, and I mean, it was 8 years, and just that walking as much as you do there, going up and down steps, a lot of places you
Hmm.
go, you just show up with a different energy. I was a lot slimmer. It was a lot easier to stay
Yeah,
slimmer
yeah,
because just from
yeah.
walking so much, it was kind of amazing. I aspire to do more walks,
Hmm.
but, so what else is helping these people live longer than they're expected?
Well, they get they get visits from. We have an entire. We call it a holistic approach. They see of course, they have a medical doctor we have a medical doctor that oversees everything, but we have nurses that come out. We have home health aides that come out. We have a social worker. If they want it, they can deny any of these services. We have a chaplain and we have volunteers. So without them being bombarded, they're getting a constant flow of attention and they have an expectancy. They expect to see this person or that person. And they kind of start to say, okay, well, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I know she's coming. So they have an expectancy. And so when you have an expectation, it's like having something to look forward to.
Mhm.
And that kind of gives people a stronger will or desire to just hold on and hang in there. And I think in my mind, in my experience, I think the naturalness of who we are, who God created our bodies, you just want to hang in there. You want to be there. You want to be around. Opposed to not having that, it's like you're hopeless. You don't have a will to. I don't want to do anything. And if you're not careful, that mindset could cause a lot of deterioration mentally, physically, you know.
So
So I think
so,
that's what does it for these people.
so you're saying a sense of purpose?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Eric, one thing that I was kind of naming some of my travels. I could name so many other places that we've been to, but because of the business that we're in and because of what we do every day for the last 18 years, I think Ann and I, we sometimes we look at travel channels and say, okay, well, where you want to go next? And it's not, it's cool to go to, places in the States. That's cool. Florida is always a good, quick spot for us. But when I think about places that Imma see a different culture, you know, even if I have it's expensive, I have to plan it a year out, start putting cash aside. I have a sense of, okay, man, in 12 months I'm going here, you know. And I'm driven for those 12 because I'm gathering more information, I'm learning more about my destination. And even though I don't say, "Oh, I can't wait to go," I can wait because I know that's when I'm gonna be able to afford it. But that time gives me the anticipation and the look forwardness of it, you know. And me, I'm doing my research. So when I get there, I know what I'm gonna expect. I kind of know the lay of the land and I'm just looking forward to it. But that sense of purpose, like I just shared about my patients, I try to adopt that too in my everyday life, you know. Always give yourself something to look forward to, you know. If say, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna save $1,000. You know, that might be small for some people, but when you get that $1,000 in your hand and know that you did it, you only have confidence now to do greater things, you know. And the same with yoga, you know. When you start in the morning, I'm all, oh man, I gotta start drinking this water, you know, Jesus. And look, after the years, I know I have to get a certain level. I'm not gonna say the amount because for some people it's different, but for me, I know what it's gonna take for me to successfully get through yoga without panting and just not being fully hydrated, right? So I know what that is, but I know that comes at a cost where I gotta say, well, I gotta start drinking this water at least an hour, a couple of hours, you know, ahead of time. Because I'm not like my wife. My wife, she drinks water all day, every day. So she could just get up out of her sleep and get ready for yoga, you know, and she's hydrated, you
Yeah, I'm
know.
the same way. I have a hard time remembering to drink.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there and now I got this water belly. You know how that feels. That feels you stand up real quick, you can hit gloop, you know, gloop. So, you know, you got to be careful because now you don't want to be too heavy, but by consuming too much water too fast, you know, that helps too and prepare. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway,
No, I don't know. Well, would you say a sense of believing in a higher power as well?
absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, I have a strong faith background, and also I'm, you know, trained a lot in that area. I've had a couple of seminary degrees, and I'm active in my church. I do a lot of teaching, you know, Bible teaching, stuff like that, and uh, it makes you have a perspective of knowing that difficult things can be accomplished. You know, you have to have faith, not only in yourself, but faith to know that there's a force that you can depend on that can carry you through, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
And even sometimes when I'm practicing, you know, like if I'm on my way to yoga and I'm like, man, I don't feel like going this morning. I start thinking about some of the biblical stories and how difficult situations have been for some people that may have even full faced death, you know, but yet they proceeded and pushed through to
What's
try
your
to overcome, you know.
favorite one?
Uh I think about maybe like Daniel, like in the lion's den and how he and his friends were in a strange place and they had to adapt to a different culture under a new king.
Mm,
And they were away from home, but they had to persevere. And then they were told not to pray and they had to push through anyway, no matter what the circumstances were, because they faced death. And they did what they felt was right and they overcame, you know. And so stories like that, you know, just being persistent in what you believe in, whatever it is you believe in. I'm not going to try to indoctrinate other people with what I believe in, but I push through and trust my faith to carry me through
mhm.
situations.
And that's more
And
appealing.
it is. And look, and not only that, um,
Sorry. Oh, there
that's
you go.
okay. Not only that, but you know, just as being in class, you know, you get through a class or two, a few classes, you know, sometimes I say, well, my schedule only going to permit me to do two classes this week. And sometimes, man, you get to a point, nah, man, I gotta go to another yoga class because I got too much stuff going on in my head. I need this to get me through, you
Give me
know.
1 second. Sorry.
Nah, it's all right.
Think it might be my battery.
I saw a battery thing flash too. Yeah.
Supposed to be charging. Put a new one in.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know what's going on. Sorry.
It's all right.
Might have to switch. I got another camera. I got a backup camera. I don't know what's going on. It's funny.
Guess it's getting real good. We're doing a good job getting to know each other on this thing, and the forces of whatever don't want this to happen. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, they're out there, it
Hmm.
seems, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes. All right, I'm just gonna switch cameras. Let's
All
see.
right.
It does not let me switch. Oh my goodness. Mercury retrograde?
What's that?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
I was saying, is Mercury retrograde?
I don't know.
Do you know what that is? It's
I
like a
think I do.
it's an astrological thing where it's like you have more technological issues, more
Right. Right.
communication issues, and, I don't know, it's just funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes things go backwards, huh? Like Murphy's Law almost.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had this much of a problem, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Not a
Such a me
problem.
might just have to go without the camera, the other one's not working either. Okay, well, I'll edit myself in if we need to.
Mhm. Mhm.
We'll just keep going. So,
Okay.
where were we? Yeah, I think we were getting into a little bit of your faith, but we don't I just wanted to also
Mhm.
want point out that you were an Army veteran, you're an entrepreneur, you're a teacher, you're a husband, you're a father. Um,
Yeah, a lot of hats. Huh?
so if you had to introduce, like, your story in 1 or 2 defining moments, where would that begin?
Uh, I guess it would be like, who am I, and what what would I want my life to be or be represented as, you know? And I would say just a normal person that lives every day, sensitive of myself and those around me, and I care. I care about people. I care about the world we live in, and I care that other people are okay, you know? And wherever life leads me, that I carry that with me, you know? I'm never gonna be in a position where I don't care about what's going on around me or the people that are around me,
Mhm.
even if they are different than I am, you know? That's who I am, you know? And you get that perspective, from seeing the world, like I said, being in the army, being involved, trying to create not only jobs for yourself, but I mean, we employ like 15 other people, and I think about these people and their livelihood. I can't make mistakes because I don't want to jeopardize, their well-being, So that kind of mindset that I described, it comes from being involved with all of that, over time, you know.
Yeah. So well, looking back, is there, like, a challenge or a turning point that really shaped the direction you've gone in life? Were you always this way?
No, I think being in the military, being in the army, it made me realize, if I can do this, I mean, my time is governed. I wouldn't say I've never been incarcerated, but I would think that my time was controlled when I was in the military. And of course, I'm serving my country, but it's still controlled. It told me when to wake up and what I had to do every day, you know, and I served that time in the military. But I said, when I get out of the military, get through doing this, all my time is going to belong to me. So I have the choice and the time to do whatever, you know, I want to do. That's going to benefit my goals. So just knowing that freedom exists and it comes with responsibility. Like you have the freedom, but you don't have the freedom to waste time. You got to get something done because every day in the military, we got something done, you know. And so the same, I guess, burden exists outside of that, but to a greater degree now, because I don't have anyone telling me what to do, I have to be the one that direct my actions every day, all day, and it's affecting people. So that makes me feel different about a lot of things, especially becoming an entrepreneur, you know. And then once becoming one, not considering the option to fail because so many people depending on you. But not only is it depending on you, you want to be able to afford them things that they deserve because they're willing to work hard and trust you as their leader, so to speak, you know.
So you give a lot to your team.
I do. And they give a lot back too, you know.
Mhm.
So it's a it's a perpetual giving of ourselves to each other, you know.
Well, I'm you probably know I was recently married, and,
Hmm.
it's actually been 6 months, and ev
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. Everybody, most of the people I meet are like, "You still good? Still in that honeymoon phase?" That's the main comment I get
Hmm.
from people,
Hmm.
and, I tell them, like, we've, both been through enough to where we kinda make a point to never go to bed upset and
That's
whatnot,
good. Yeah, that's
and
really good.
and try and face whatever difficulties we have right away.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so you and your wife have been married for 30 years. You have any practices or values that help keep a strong relationship?
Well, yeah, I mean, uh, we've been married for 31 years. But I met my wife when she was 18 and I was 20. So we got married like 9 or so years after we met. But the thing is, you know, we're best friends, and we really enjoy being around each other, and we really want the other person to be happy every day, you know. And if she's not happy, I'm not happy. So I'm willing to sacrifice to see her happy, and I know she's willing to sacrifice to see me happy. You know, it's almost like, the story of Romeo and Juliet, how, she cut her hair to buy him something, and I don't remember, I think he sold something that she was gonna buy him. I don't know, something like that. It's like they were both uh, trying to serve each other, and that's kind of how we are, and we just enjoy being together. We even used to say when we both worked in the corporate world, that it'd be nice one day if we worked together. And a lot of my friends said, "Man, how you work with your wife every day, all day?" Yeah, we had little times when we not talking to each other. It's kind of interesting. We still manage to be functional. You know,
Yeah.
and then we work in New Orleans, so we drive 70 miles to and fro. So that's 140 miles.
Wow.
So you got to ride home. And but we look forward to it because we've gotten closer over the years, and the days if she's not with me, it's like I miss her, and some people may think, "Man, don't you want a break?" Actually, I don't, and that's 31 years. Yeah,
I I feel that way about a million.
yeah, that's great.
And what you said, I didn't even realize it until you
Yeah,
said that, like, when she's in a bad mood, I start acting goofy and just try and do whatever I can, you know what I'm saying? I just do
got
stupid
to get it
things,
back. You're right.
and,
Right.
like, just go up to her and start kissing her and stuff, like, it's
Yeah,
just funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do, to get that fellowship back.
We
Because you
actually
go at the end of the day, you're like, what were we arguing about or fussing about? You don't even remember.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we actually work, she helps me with Liqueur Studio, my video production, and, yeah, she helps me with that, so we do work together a lot.
That's
Um,
good, man.
yeah, she gets me jobs through The Advocate sometimes,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then we do other, work as well.
That's good, man. Just keep it up, man.
Well, cool, so
Uh,
did you start Gulf South Hospice?
we did, we
Okay.
did. We started it after Katrina. Um, we both. I was working for a medical practice in Baton Rouge, and my wife was running about 12 nursing homes throughout Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and a couple other states. Because she was always on the road. And then she got laid off right after the hurricane, and they had asked her to go to California to work, but the company had sold to another company, and the headquarters was in California. It's like, well, no, we just kind of put roots down and finished building a house out here, so you know, so we tried to figure out what we were going to do. We thought we would try to do a home health agency, and all they had a moratorium on the licensure. So we ended up trying to learn a little bit about hospice, and you know, subsequently we started Gulfside Hospice, and it was tough. We sat there, you know, no money coming in, wondering how we gonna make it, and borrow money from friends, and it's time for the money to start being repaid, and that shit's
Yeah.
scary, man. But we hung in there, and things started working out, and within a year, it's like, what were we so afraid of? Because if we do everything we're supposed to do, the money's coming in, and we just have to get out and market and get patients and keep it going. And we realized, Eric, that that's our new job,
Mhm.
and the mindset changed. We're like, okay, well, this is your job, but you're in control of how things go on the job. So we
Mm.
we realized, you know what, if we do everything we're supposed to do, and it required a little bit. It's not 8 to 5, and nobody's gonna cover you, so you
Mhm.
gotta actually do it. So instead of 8 to 5, it ended up being 12, 14 longer days, weekends, because you're out there doing everything that you need to do to set up things. And, you know, over time, it all worked out. It didn't look pretty at first, but now it's a job. It's a job, and it provides for us, but we realize we have to take care of it. It's like a garden. We got to water it. We got to nurture it. We got to invest in it. We got to get the right people. There's no turning the lights out, just going home and it's over with. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
kind of mindset.
I can totally relate with the yoga studio right now.
Hmm.
Like, I got it thinking, "Oh, I just need to go." Like, I asked Stefan, I was like, "What do you need to do to keep this going?" He's like, "Oh, just show up for the classes." And I was like, and then if but, you know,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah,
it's
it
more than
it
that.
show it shows because, no matter what I go on Sunday, so I change it up. I used to go like just strictly Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that was it. And every now and then, even if I had time, like if I was off on a Saturday or not doing anything or wasn't in church on a Sunday, I wouldn't go because I said to myself, no, I'm gonna go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's my time. But now I've been kind of mixing it up, going on a Sunday, going on a different some one evening or Saturday morning, and it's just been great to see because I see different people. But the thing that's been most interesting is that every time I go to the studio now, it looks different. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, okay, I'm gonna go see what Eric doing, what he done did, And I went the other day and it had, I think yeah, I told you about the, looked like a hostess because the podium that you had.
Yeah.
And then I was laying on the floor. I was getting kind of acclimated to the room, and I said, "Oh, well, the tape is yellow." I was like, I go in the back room. Myself and one of the other students were back there, and Tim, and we were back there. And he came. He said, "Wow," and I said, "Wow," and I was looking. So it's always something. That's when I asked you. I said, "Is that a washing machine back there?" So
Right?
man, we love it. The floor back there, the fact that it's blue, it's nice,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that, what you're doing,
Yeah.
It's like we could say it's our studio, you can get a cold drink, you could get a towel, you can buy a towel, it's a place like somebody say, I'm part of a club. I say that's like it's our studio, and been coming as long as I've been coming, and I feel like I got skin on the wall. So
Mhm. Absolutely, you do.
yeah,
Um, yeah, that's one of our, if you're either growing or you're dying.
yeah,
So,
that's true. That's
we're
true.
we're trying to find ways of improving everything.
Yeah, it's going good, man. Going good.
Well, great. So, do you wanna share a little bit of how your faith has guided you through choices in business and family and service?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I guess I have gotten to know a lot about myself And in knowing myself, I realized the limitations that I had and the things that, you say, oh, why is I have a lot of questions and I see a lot of things that I can't control. And as I started learning more and more about God, I started asking those kinds of questions to Him, you know, and looking for those kind of answers. And you say it out loud by way of prayer, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get an audible answer. So where do you get your answers? So you start reading the Bible, read scriptures. But what I can say, Eric, is what I have realized is that it's not that you're going to get answers per se, but you will discover more about God's character, uh, his his will, and his ways. So when you start to understand those things, you can kind of shape life and see life. Say, well, that's not God. God doesn't operate like that. And then, you start trying to emulate what you believe God is in your life, how you treat people, how you pursue things, how you don't give up on things, how you depend on Him to give you strength. And even though you don't, it's like the difference in drinking a Celsius, a can of that Celsius, you can feel the difference. Like if you say, okay, I'm going to believe God, but will I feel like I'm ready to go conquer the world? Well, maybe not. But you still can move about knowing that there's a greater sense of purpose for your life, and you just trying to walk and accomplish that.
Mhm.
And before you know it, you realize, you know what? I believe God has given me the strength to do this or do that and do that.
Mhm.
And then you start relying on, okay, God, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this, but I'm trusting that you're gonna give me what I need to get it done. And then
Mhm.
somebody might call you and say, hey man, I was thinking about asking you to do this and I want to give you this. And like, wait, where this come from? So you can write it
Mhm.
off, but then you have to say at some point, you know what? I believe God is moving on my behalf.
Yeah.
And so I take that and it's personal for me. And I can't let anyone talk me off the ledge and say, oh no, man, that's not God. That's just happenstance. So that's just that. For me, that's what it is. And as I'm studying and learning about him and see how he's worked in other people's lives in the past and then through biblical texts and stories, why wouldn't he do that for me? And so that's what I have embraced, and I try to operate as ways not to do nothing to harm his people, which that's creation. Try not to if I owe somebody something, I want to make sure they get it. I don't want to deprive anybody of anything. And I just want to treat people the way that I would like to be treated and the way that God would expect me to treat people. And that's
Mhm.
kind of how I govern my life. I tell my kids the same way, and I'm surprised. I can say surprised, but I kind of expect them to do the same thing. And I'm watching them at 27 and 30. My daughter's 30, my son is 27. And I just look at the character, and I say, wow, you know, I can't say that I sat them down and said, do this, do that, do this, do that. Because some points I've missed. I didn't tell them, but yet they're doing things that I didn't tell them to do and turn out to be all right. So I think that's the influence that they have attained just kind of watching me and my wife, how we function.
Mhm.
So that I hope that explains a little bit about my perspective on my faith and what I
Mhm.
believe in stuff and trust in and how I operate as far as my business and everything else. So just try to be consistent.
Yeah,
Even in the studio, you think about sometimes you might get there because I try to get there early and acclimate a little bit because I don't want to just jump in a hot room. So I try to let my body, but then somebody might come in, 10 minutes after I've been there and they can't see themselves. So
mhm.
I don't have a problem moving out the way
Mhm.
so they could see themselves, even though that's a spot that I felt comfortable, the panel not gonna be too hot. I might be in shot of the fan when they come on, but yet the person, they may need to be in a position that, so you don't mind giving that up. You
Mhm.
know what I mean when I talk about that? I know you
Yeah.
do, but
Yeah. No, totally.
yeah, so
Well, what I was thinking when you were talking about that, about God is like some say that your conscience is the voice of God. You ever hear that?
I do. Your conscience is your guide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I really I don't know, that since I heard that, it's helped me a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but also, I think God or the universe can speak through coincidences, which is kinda what you were saying,
Uh-huh.
or coincidences or my grandmother used to say, "There's no such thing as a coincidence,"
Uh-huh.
and I was like
Uh-huh.
and so I think things like that are really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. They are, they have instances people, forgot their keys or went back home for some. I'm sure you've heard stories like that.
Mhm, mhm.
And they go back and, oh, did I turn the gas off or what have you? And go back and, oh, and they go back and because I went back, this happened and I avoided this,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
you can't say that's a coincidence, God could have been directing you to avoid a trauma,
So true. I
So,
probably avoided a wreck today when I went back to make sure my garage was closed.
yeah, I mean, that kind of thing, so it's not a coincidence. So I just say, when that happens, okay, Lord, well, I'm sure I might not get it, but I'm gonna go back and do this and I thank you, or even when you're sitting in traffic, you're frustrated. Like, oh man, I gotta get here. I got 10 minutes and here now. I got 20 minutes to go by. Man, don't take that attitude. Just sit there and count your blessings. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm healthy. My kids are healthy. My wife is healthy. I still have a business to go to. I still have a home. If you purposely reflect on some of the good things, that would mitigate your need to criticize or complain about what's inconveniencing you.
Mhm. Totally. Well, do you see, any sort of connection between yoga, like, in the spiritual or physical practice? Because one of the problems I run into is, some people associate yoga with anti-Christian beliefs,
Mhm,
and that's something I try to explain to people it's not. It's really just a training of the mind and learning to
mhm,
keep the attention on the present for longer.
mhm,
That's one of the things as well as, strengthening and making your body a little more healthy. It was originally meant to help you work off, there's different teachers like Iyengar and a few others that basically he said like their kids, he said something along the lines like, "Just like a kid, you gotta wear them out so they
mhm.
can actually sit still," you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so you
yeah,
leave with a certain stillness and awareness.
yeah. Well, I do see a connection between yoga and my faith, between, the spiritual and the physical practice. But, uh, and I have heard, I've even had friends that say, man, why are you doing uh, that weird stuff that's, going to invite demons into your spirit, that kind of thing. And I have friends that were in seminary would say things like that to me. I say, you know what? I say, you couldn't be any further from the truth because it is a physical exercise that you really should try because it accesses your body's full range of motion, which
Yeah.
is never accomplished through any other activity, you
Yes.
know. And I am not, I've tried all kind of things, CrossFit, all kinds of things. So that to me is the perfect exercise. And I've learned a lot about yoga. I've even started reading, studying a lot about yoga. I've even took a class, with Stefan on Sundays and Saturday after practice to learn. I just never got past the learning the dialogue and all that.
Mhm.
And so I never, but I did it personally just because I loved it so much. I wanted to know more about it.
Yeah.
So it was more personal for me. I didn't do it with the ambition to be an instructor.
Yeah,
I
honestly, I
thought
didn't
about it.
either.
Yeah,
I never intended to be a teacher.
yeah, but you know, and if but I think to myself, if I had to sit down, if I couldn't, because I was telling you a couple days ago when I travel, I don't get a chance to do yoga, but I think I might be able to walk myself through it, and I think I'm gonna try that next time. But yeah, back to what I was saying, I do see the connection because even when I'm on a mat, sometimes and it's quiet and we're in Savasana, I'm like, I'll lay there and I may just talk to myself or say something or just maybe just pray, you
Insight.
know. Yeah, just reflect on how my day is gonna go. And if I anticipate, look, this is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. If I anticipate like something arduous that I have to face, like one day I had a meeting with the IRS, and I'm like,
Mm-mm.
that's not
That's
gonna go.
stressful.
That's stressful. That's not gonna go. That's not gonna go well. So you know what I did? I'm laying on the floor on the mat. I'm thinking about that, and so you know we now Shavasana is over, and we're about to go into the next posture. So I'm thinking, okay, this is my encounter with the IRS. I got to get through this, And so, I breeze through it with a special determination, but I'm doing all this little exercise in my own mind. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I want this outcome to be good, and I make it good. Whereas normally I'll stress out and come out of this posture. I'm gonna stay in it and because I want to overcome this challenge that I know I'm gonna have to deal with. And then by the time it happens in reality, if it's a meeting with the IRS, I'm like, oh, okay, this went well. Well, I kind of projected that energy for it to go well when I was laying on my mat. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
guess what? It didn't go bad. Guy was nice. It's like, hey, hey, I'm here to help. I'm like, wow, that's surprising. Not expecting to say he was here to help or, if anything you need, if you don't understand, I'm thinking you'll come in and tell me everything is wrong. I owe this and you're going to shut me down,
Yeah.
owe a fee. But that's kind of what you kind of get just from walking through the world. The world is saying these things. Is are you gonna believe it or not? You gotta reject that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And
So
you
true.
learn to reject it just by being in a quiet space where you can come to terms with the presence of what's going on with you and what you're trying to accomplish and what's before you at that time. So yoga helps put all that in perspective, man.
Dude, that's such a good example of, like, what I talk about is basically, sometimes we don't remember that, right? Like, we
Hmm.
we have this event coming up next
Hmm.
in 2 weeks, and you spent
Hmm.
2 weeks stressing about it, and
I
then when
know.
that event happened, you're like, "Oh, nothing really happened." So you just wasted you just put all this stress into 2 weeks of your days,
I know.
not enough people remember that, and remember, it's the thinking mind, that's why we say, "Don't think, just go."
Yeah. Yeah. You know, man, I'm gonna tell you something, and maybe you can write this down because I learned this from a teacher at my church. So it's two things. First of all, is about how you see life, right? And fear. So what I learned, Eric, is that fear is if you took the word FEAR, fear is false. That's the F. E is evidence. A is appearing real. So fear is false evidence appearing real. That's what you just described,
Yes.
right? So then when we live our lives, we have the option to do what? We can live in fear or we can live in faith. They're still going to be LIFE. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
LIFE. Live in fear every day or live in faith every day. So when you're laying on the floor in the mat in the hot room and you're trying to get through it, you just got to make a choice. Am I going to live in fear every day or am I going to live in faith every day? And that's kind of, that's a good thing to do considering, you knowing how tough it's going to be to get through yoga. But you get through it. We always do. 90 minutes gonna come, whether or not we do it or not. But like Stefan used to say, just stay in the room. You know what I mean? Stay in the room. Don't leave the room. And you get through it. You're gonna feel better afterwards.
Mhm.
And next time, do a little more. Do more than you did the last time. You
Yeah.
know.
I like the, saying there's a couple different ways a few different people say it, but, compare yourself to who you were yesterday,
Yeah.
not to who you are,
Yeah. Yeah.
or not to who someone else is
Hmm.
today.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, thank you.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. This was good, man. So I'm glad we had this time together.
Well, are there any so for me, my twofold way is breath, which is associated with the body, and
Mhm.
then story, which is associated with the mind.
mhm.
And for me, I developed practices that I call my non-negotiables, and it's basically read a little bit every day, write a little bit every day, and that's kind of for the mind, and then meditate, and then also work out. It's just be physical is my only, thing. So, do you have any kinda mind, body, spirit negotiables or non-negotiables that you, do to stay grounded and energized?
Well, just sort of like what you just said, and put things in that perspective, um, I have to use all three of these aspects of my being, my mind, my body, and my spirit. So, I continually, like you said, I challenge my mind. I read, I do things. Like I said, I look for new places to go. You know, I'll do research to find a place, and if I find a place, I tell my wife, "Hey, let's go there." So that's on our mind. We put a plan together to do that. That's challenging, find
Mhm.
out how much it costs, and but I do, Eric. I never say what I can't do. I never say I can't afford this,
Mhm,
you
mhm,
know, and but that's cool. I might not able to see or foresee that I can afford it at this time, but it forces you to put a plan in place if it's worth accomplishing for you, So that's kind of how I use my mind, my body. Like I told you, I'm 60 years old. I just turned. So I was in class today, my birthday, August the 2nd.
mhm,
And my daughter said, "Hey, I just want the class to tell the class today my dad's 60th birthday." And I was like, the reason why I'm in class today is because I don't want to be in worse shape than I was when I was 59. So I want to be in better shape at 60 than I was at 59. And that's my investment, every day. Now, I want to work my body because that's part of who I am. My body's going to carry me to be able to do these things, And then, like you said, like we said, spirit, I have to do things to strengthen myself when I've had a tendency to feel down. I have to have something in place, if it's going to be reading my scriptures and praying. And like I said, I teach the Bible a lot. So I'm always preparing. So
mhm,
I have to keep sharp in that area because I don't know when someone may call and ask me to do something like normally I don't teach on the fourth Sunday, but the superintendent asked me, she said, "Hey, can you teach Sunday?" I say, "Sure, I can." I wasn't prepared. I had something I could have done, but this opportunity because the teacher couldn't make it, so I don't mind filling in because I might need him to do it for me, So, and but now I'm learning something that I would not have learned because I'm doing his lesson, and it's on something that I didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge on. So that mind, body, and spirit is it's all who I am, and you have to do maintenance on all parts of it. You
mhm,
can't neglect one or the other two or suffer or vice versa.
mhm. Totally.
So so yeah, you got to stay uh, keep the maintenance all three aspects of who you are, mind, body. I agree with that. I like that. It's a good question.
Yeah, yeah, it's helped me, like, journaling and
Hmm.
I like free write, so just kinda mind dump, and
Hmm.
it just helps me, like, while I'm doing that, new
Hmm.
ideas come up, like, sometimes I'm writing a list of things I need to do that I didn't think
Hmm.
about until I
Hmm.
started doing that, like, that's
Hmm.
typically in free writing.
Hmm.
So you mentioned reading. Do you have any books besides the Bible? Because I know you read the Bible a lot,
Yeah.
uh, but that you've gotten into recently that really helped you?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I read a lot of. I've been lately, believe it or not, I have some books on like geography. I've been trying to learn like land formations. Like, how did this part come about? Why is this area called this area?
Mm,
And why and who separated? Like, you see the shapes of geographical shapes of land, and why is this terrace? So I've been reading stuff like that, and I was reading a lot of political stuff, but I kind of put that on hold right now because I don't want my mood elevator to go down. So
mm,
I,
yeah,
I just want to read stuff that's going to help me know more or not. I don't want to be involved in that controversy or nothing like that. So I kind of put that on the shelf for a little bit right now.
mhm.
And of course, I do some gardening. at the house. So I've been trying to learn a little bit about plants and regions, and because you go to Home Depot and you buy this, you buy that, and then next week it's dead. Well, you shouldn't have planted that plant anyway, because it's not the natural element,
Mhm.
for it. So I've been learning what to plant where, and and I realized some of the stuff I've been doing wrong. That's why my flowers have been dying. So I read a lot about stuff like that, and I'm a fan of boxing, so I got a lot of books on some of the past boxers, not
Nice.
just Mike Tyson and stuff like that, but some of the other guys.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
boxing too. I mean, I don't keep
Hmm.
up with it day to day, but
Hmm.
I do, I practice more jujitsu now, but,
Okay. Oh
um,
wow. Yeah.
y and, yeah, that's like my yin and my yang, yoga and
Yeah.
jujitsu.
I used to do taekwondo years ago, and man, since I was like 13.
Mhm.
And well, next time I see you, I'm gonna show you some pictures, man. It's pretty good. I
Alright.
used to do it at we had like a YMCA.
Mhm.
Used to go there and do it, and I think it ran out of funding when I got to be like maybe 19 or so, and I never really finished or pursued and got a black belt, but I got pretty good at it, and it was something to keep us busy after school.
Mhm.
So
Do you get the kids into it?
my son did a little bit, but I was a little bit further advanced. And then when I got home, the trouble was I would try to coach him, and I think I frustrated
Mm.
him with it. My wife said, "Leave him alone." I said, "Well, he in class. He's not doing this right. His roundhouse is a little off. His side thrust kick, he's not putting his hip into it." So I was coaching him after he was being coached. And I just got this frustrated in the situation, and threw his hands up. So
Yeah, I think about that a lot, as because I do wanna have kids, and,
yeah,
like, finding that balance
yeah,
of how much feedback to give and when to give them space, you know? I'm like,
yeah.
"What what's right?" You know?
Oh man, it's just hard, man, because you don't want to not coach them because you want to seek perfection, but they don't necessarily want that because they're just kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, yeah, the Tang Sudo I did Tang Sudo when I was young, which is funny because
okay.
the karate school right next to the yoga studio is a Tang Sudo school.
Wow. Okay.
And that's actually the influence of that's they had they don't have a black belt, they have a navy belt, and
Oh.
that was kind of part of my inspiration to make navy one of our colors, and the
Hmm.
reason they didn't do that, the reasoning behind they don't do a black belt is because they said black represents the end, and ever since I was little so, like, it's actually kinda interesting because I was also, like, a painter, and
Hmm.
I did in high school, I won all the art awards except for, like, 1, which is kinda crazy. But I was also the starting fullback, uh,
Okay.
you know?
Wow, you did a lot, man.
So, yeah, so that was one of the things in my life where I didn't know where I fit. It was like none of my
Hmm.
art friends wanted to hang out with the jocks. No, the jocks wanted to hang out with
Hmm.
and so I always I mean,
Hmm.
even it wasn't until I came across what's called the twofold way. It's,
Hmm.
from Miyamoto Musashi, and he says every warrior should have a peaceful art as well as a killing art. This is the twofold way. And I was like, "Okay, it was like jujitsu and photography," which it kind of developed into breath and story for me.
Hmm.
And
It's cool, man.
so breath is the body, story is the mind because
Hmm.
we think in stories
Hmm.
and we learn from stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, well, cool. Well, thanks for being here. Do you wanna leave us with I know you gave us a lot of great insights and wisdom, but if you could leave people with one piece of wisdom, what and and about what it means to live a full life and a meaningful life, what would you say?
Well, I would say, man, learn yourself, uh, love yourself, and don't just live for yourself. I know that sounds kind of corny, but you know, learn yourself, find out who you are, and then fall in love with yourself. Not in a conceited way, you
Mhm.
know, but be content, in your skin, and what you don't like, fix. If you're not willing to fix it, then don't complain about it. And
Mhm.
then, like I said, don't just live for yourself, which I think I might have said earlier. You're not just here for Eric. I'm not just here for Rob. And an interesting thing to correlate that is, I heard a guy say, uh, apple trees don't eat apples, or orange trees don't eat oranges.
Mm,
You know what I mean? The tree produces those for the benefit of others. So that makes me know that I'm not just here to satisfy my every whim or wish. You know what I mean? And
mhm.
and I think I will be strengthened every day and have what I need every day if I'm presenting myself as not only for myself but as a resource, for humanity. And I guess that's what I would say I would want to leave with people, man.
Love that. Rob, thank you, buddy. I'll see you in class soon. I'm
All
resting
right.
my knee right now, so I
Yeah.
won't see you
Well,
tomorrow morning.
okay. Well, you take care, man. I look forward to seeing you. Can't wait to. I like the way you do the class, and I look forward to doing it. But I think I
Yeah,
may be in tomorrow.
that was the best thing you coulda told me about how that I guide the breath, because that's my thing, obviously.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually spent, man, when I come out of my triangle, and sometimes I take that posture off going into the next one, the standing T, because I'm just exhausted. But lately, in the last class, even when I was with Suzanne a couple of days ago on Sunday, when I came out of standing bull, I was still charged enough to go to my standing tree, and I did both sides, and I wasn't exasperated. I was gassed, but I
Mhm,
wasn't. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, Eric would tell me, take count three. One
mm,
more, and then because that's the part that you kind of give it all. You got to hold some, but and like Stephanie used to say, it's just expanding your heart, your ability of your heart, your heart.
mm,
Your lung capacity. I meant to say my lung capacity.
mm,
So
mhm.
yeah, keep doing that, man. Because people doing yoga and they're not. They're trying to gut it through, without controlling the breathing. It's making them hard for them, and they
Yeah,
want to give up on it. But if you got breath, man, like they say, you can handle it a lot better. Even though you're hot, you got breath. But when
yeah.
you out of breath and you hot, Lord,
I
man,
call it an ebb and flow. I'm actually pretty passionate about it. It's like I call it an ebb and flow. So in the poses, just like in life, you can imagine inhaling forward and then exhale,
uh,
settling, right?
yeah,
Inhale
yeah.
forward, exhale, settle, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So keep doing that, man. That's great. It's great.
Thanks, buddy. I'll see you in class soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye
Have a
bye.
great one.
You too.